I'd like to offer a sutta today from the Saṃyutta Nikāya. The title of this sutta study is Why Are We Here? This beautiful sutta, short sutta from the Buddha, explains very well how we find ourselves in this situation. For those who'd like to follow it themselves with the text or text online, this is from the Discourses on Causation, Saṃyutta number 12. There's a chapter called Kalara, the aristocrat, where the Buddha gives a teaching to this particular person. And there's a collection of teachings in this chapter, and this teaching is number 38. So it's Saṃyutta Nikāya 12:38. And the name of this discourse is Intention, Cetanā Sutta. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang Dhammang Sangham Namasami. At Savatthi, mendicants, what you intend or plan and what you have underlying tendencies for become a support for the continuation of consciousness. When this support exists, consciousness becomes established. When consciousness is established and grows, there is rebirth into a new state of existence in the future. When there's rebirth into a new existence in the future, then future rebirth, old age and death come to be, as do sorrow, lamentation, pain, sadness, and distress. This is how this entire mass of suffering originates. So this is incredible, really. I mean, it's a concise summary of our entire situation, of the situation of all beings. Why are we here? We're here because of intention. We're here in a sense because we want to be here. There's something that wants to exist and that has to therefore go through the suffering that existence entails. The repetitive cycles. The Buddha concisely pinpointed for us the cause of our being here, the cause of this continuation, is intentions and plans. What you intend or plan, and what you have also underlying tendencies towards. So these two facets of our experience. The Buddha talked about the asawa. My teacher Goenkaji called the asawa, these underlying causes of suffering, these underlying defilements. He called them sleeping volcanoes. So we have these tendencies, these inclinations sort of sitting under the surface or sort of smoking away. There's pressure there, there's energy there, but it's dormant. And then every now and then, boom, something will come up. And we can almost have the sense, there's some movement here, some inclination towards something. And it's a strong desire, or it may be some kind of hatred that comes into the mind, or confusion, delusion. So there are these underlying tendencies. And then on the surface, you could say, of our experience, there is our active thinking mind and our life that's unfolding before us. And how does it unfold before us? Through our intentionality, through our planning. So we make it happen, in short. This isn't to say we make the body happen. And the Buddha talked about 4 different kinds of nutriment. There's the body which receives food, and the food keeps the body going. So we have these bodies, but we have these bodies for deeper underlying reasons. So the other kinds of nutriment are contact, which gives rise to feelings. And we start to play with contact, play with feelings through our lives when we have agency, when we have the choice, will tend to seek pleasant feeling and move away from unpleasant feeling. So already we're moving into the realm of intentionality. And then other causes, other nutriments, other causes of our being here. There are two more. There is volition, this kind of intentionality, the kind of momentum that drives us, choices that drive us. And then the consciousness itself is a nutriment for itself. So consciousness is self-perpetuating. And we can watch all of this playing out. The beauty of this is that once we understand that there are these processes, that the nutriment is coming in, the food, the contact, the volition, the intention, and consciousness are all creating the next moment and the next and the next. We have bodies, we need to take food, we need to look after these bodies. That part is to be carefully observed, to be carefully worked with. So that as we chant in the mealtime chants, we're not eating for fun or for pleasure, for beauty, delight. We're not eating in order to overindulge. We're eating just to maintain the health of this body, to remove any unpleasant old feelings such as hunger that have arisen, and to not create any new unpleasant feelings through unintelligent eating or overeating. So we work with this nutriment of food, but these other nutriments, contact and our tendency to be swayed by pleasant and unpleasant, and the movement away from unpleasant and towards pleasant, and the volition and consciousness, these we need to really be willing, friends, to let go of plans and intentions, let go of the underlying tendencies. How do we do that? We do that through mindfulness. We observe ourselves. We can start to see how, without mindfulness, we tend to be on automatic pilot. People are living according to their wishes and desires, according to that which they don't want and like. People will be guided by these painful causes of future rebirth. So we want to step away from that and to observe the inclinations, observe the wishes and the likes and the dislikes arising and passing, and not fall into automatic pilot. To actually be able to be wise is to be able to observe these tendencies, these inclinations, and to be willing to let them go. And it's a beautiful thing, isn't it, to see some kind of intentionality around something I want, say. I want to get it, I really want it. And to be with that feeling of desire. How does that manifest in the body? What is that feeling of leaning towards, and that feeling of unsatisfactory right now? This isn't okay. I need this other thing to be okay. The feeling of emptiness, not in a good way. The feeling of like an empty hole that needs filling. Unbearable yearning. Can we be present for that? Rather than grabbing what we want, can we feel the feeling of desire? And of course we can, and many of you know this. And then through sitting patiently and bearing that feeling and momentum, that push, this intentionality, we can notice how it has a life. So it lives for a while, it can sometimes build and build and build, and then it will start to decrescendo, it will start to die down. And eventually, of course, it will pass away, like everything changing. So we can have this beautiful experience of seeing desires arising and passing, and staying steady, staying still, and freeing ourselves from this, what in this sutta the Buddha refers to as intentions and plans. What you intend or plan and what you have underlying tendencies towards, this is the support for continuation of consciousness. We create anew every moment that we are intending, every moment that we are reaching to the future. We're reaching away from what is. We're seeking something other than reality. every moment we argue in this way with the way it is, every moment we lose ourselves in the defilements of wanting and not wanting, that confusion, then we're creating more consciousness. We're recreating again and again. And what does the Buddha say? The result, of course, is rebirth. The next moment of desire, the next push, the velocity just sort of keeps going. The engine keeps moving. And so also does rebirth, old age, death, sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and despair. So it's a choice, it's a clear choice. And we have to fully see the big picture in order to not be enticed by the pleasure of wanting. Actually, wanting is the pleasure. Getting is quite pale in comparison. It pales in comparison to wanting. If you really look, if you really notice, when we're craving and desiring something, we really feel there's a sense of purpose and vitality, and I have a plan. And there's something very attractive to us about having a plan of any sort. But then look at what happens if we follow Mara, if we follow that delusion, and we're duped and we get into that current. And then, boom, we make it happen. Yes, we get what we want. What happens then? What happens then is the letdown, isn't it? It's the anticlimax. It's the disillusionment. The having is never as good as the wanting. We just see for yourselves, watch the mind and see how it's the wanting that is enticing, that is somehow attractive for us. The getting, we notice how quickly we lose that hit of pleasure, how short-lived it is. You get the thing you want and it's over already. Then what? Then we start to want something else. And so it goes on. And so in this way, consciousness is recreated. The life is re-energized. The suffering is reconstituted over and over and over again. So the Buddha has outlined the problem, outlined the predicament that we find ourselves in. There is momentum here. There is a beingness here that is caused by intentionality. What to do? Fortunately, the Buddha continues to explain. Okay, if you don't intend or plan, but you still have underlying tendencies, this becomes a support for the continuation of consciousness. When this support exists, consciousness becomes established. When consciousness is established and grows, there is rebirth into a new state of existence in the future. And when there is rebirth into a new state of existence in the future, there comes along with that rebirth, old age, death, and sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and despair. So here we've stripped away, to a certain extent, this momentum, this push, this being energy, becoming energy. There's no intention and there's no planning. When you don't intend or plan, but there are still underlying tendencies. Okay, so this is the meditator, this is the practitioner, this is where we're at. Because at least for some periods of time, we're willing, we've made a kind of renunciation, we've decided, we've allowed ourselves to stop. So to sit and meditate is to come home to this present moment, isn't it? To be present for this body, sitting, breathing, and to start to turn that mindful attention to the mind itself, so we can start to notice from this perspective of body awareness, like an anchor for the mind. We can notice the stream of thoughts, the thinking process, this incredible flow that's completely impersonal, These are not our thoughts, but thoughts will come and go, the mind doing its thing. This part of the mind, this active kind of surface of the mind. And when we're meditating, we're allowing that to simply flow. We're not flowing with it. We're not in it. We're not identifying with it. And maybe we are sometimes. Maybe we do get caught up in whatever thoughts of past or future we're having. But from time to time, we can really sit steady, be still, and know this thinking process for what it is. Like a flow of suffering, a flow of Mara, a flow of delusion. And we don't even have to label it like that if that's not helpful for you, just to see it's a flow of energy, thought energy. And it's not me, it's not mine. I don't have to identify with this. I can observe this, I can watch this, like watching a movie. And the more we can experience this freedom from planning and intentionality, the more we can relax, the more we can recognize that it's good to let go of these things, at least for some of the time. And when we really do let go of intentions and plans, what we find is that life doesn't stop. We don't stop functioning. We don't stop traveling if we need to travel. We don't stop doing things. We just don't have the same relationship of holding on to those things. Things still happen, but we're not doing them. Things can happen in a more smooth and efficient way when we're out of the way. So we get to start noticing that, just to notice how the less I invest in my thinking and planning and wanting and being on that level, the more things go smoothly, things go well. The Dhamma can manifest, the Dhamma can flow, and I can just recline and relax in that. So this is the place in this second aspect of this teaching from the Buddha. This is the place. If you don't intend or plan, but still there are underlying tendencies, then still the Buddha's telling us consciousness is being created anew. There's more birth happening. There's more energy, momentum behind samsara, behind becoming, behind manifesting. There's still agitation, there's still suffering. So the next and final paragraph goes like this. If you don't intend or plan, you don't have underlying tendencies either. Then this does not become a support for the continuation of consciousness. With no support, consciousness is not established. When consciousness is not established and doesn't grow, then there's no rebirth into a new state of existence in the future. And when there's no rebirth into a new state of existence in the future, then there is no old age, no death, no sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and despair. So there we have it, the entire path right there for us. When we practice, we start to let go of intentionality. We start to step back from the hugely stressful push and pull of life, and we start to observe. And as we observe these inclinations and plans, rather than making new ones, so we've stopped making new or investing in new futures, new plans, new ideas, new anything at all. We're resting back, and then what happens? The old intentionality, the past karma, you could say, the sleeping volcanoes, you could say, the asava, they start to rise up, and we have the chance to investigate this past karma. We have the chance to investigate the forces that have led to our being here. The causes why we're here start to reveal themselves. And what we can begin to recognize is that these causes, these pushes, these pulls, these energies are sheer suffering. And as we start to recognize the quality of unsatisfactoriness, the painfulness around these energies, we get stronger and firmer in our resolve to be present for them, to not act upon them, to observe and to learn and to grow in wisdom and to grow in peace, friends, to grow in peace, to relax. And so slowly but surely in our walking the spiritual path, we're beginning to recognize that we're not driving this vehicle. The vehicle's moving, and we can choose whether we move with it, whether we press the accelerator and rev it up, or whether we take our foot off the accelerator, sit back and trust, and allow it to slow down. And we come to a point one day, inevitably, when the vehicle stops. And we know that moment. And the profound rightness of that, the beauty of that, the peace of that, ineffable peace, unshakable peace. And when the vehicle has stopped, then something else can happen, which is that within us, all of the past causes, past propelling movements and energies can start to arise, and we stay steady. Don't drive anymore. Stay sitting back, resting and relaxing, and just allow the full force of all these energies, the underlying tendencies, to have their day, to have their say, to be heard, to be felt, to be seen. And eventually, time comes when it's like the candle burning. The fuel of the underlying tendencies is like the candle wax. The flame is our mindfulness. And the flame, you could also say, is this inevitable motion of being. And it's burning, and we're not adding any fuel. We're not making any more candles. We're just letting this one burn down. And in many ways, this simile is helpful because it's like the body's burning down, the body's naturally aging. And it slowly comes to a halt and it's over. And in the same way, even as that is happening, when we're present for our lives, when we're actually truly alive and aware and awake, being the Buddha watching and seeing the Dhamma, then we can see the mind also burning, until eventually there's no more underlying asava, there's no more wax, there's no more fuel, and so the flame can go out. And this is the indescribable state of nibbana, of cooling, that is impossible to revert from this state into any form of delusion or suffering whatsoever, because there's just no fuel left. The flame has gone out. And so this sutta is pointing the way for us and pinpointing, let's focus, friends, on our intentionality, on our planning. Let's focus on all the ways in which we're creating life anew. We're creating suffering anew. We're stepping into samsara and getting caught up and getting stressed and getting speedy. Let's just observe when these things happen, and let's remember to meditate as much as you can in order to slow it down, to begin to turn the attention to seeing what's actually going on, to be able to renounce, let go of planning and intentionality and all the identification with them, and then to start to see the underlying tendencies emerging. In a quiet mind, like a still forest pool, these tendencies can start to reveal themselves like animals coming to drink the water. Can we watch? We have to be very still. We have to be very silent within to see these tendencies and just allow them to come up, to exert their energies, not to be fooled by those energies, to stay steady with those energies, and then to see them passing away. Peace, peace. Slowly but surely we deepen our peacefulness And in the end, there's nothing but peace. Ewan.